So welcome to all of our West Coast families. We have families from JBLM and Camp Pendleton and Point Mugu and the Lemoore and here in San Diego. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Just a reminder as you join us to check in, you can say hi in the chat and introduce yourself. But if you can direct message Jamie, your service member's last name and your district, we will get you entered in to win the drawing at the end of our session tonight. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of our new initiative called Take the Challenge. I hope you've all had a chance to look at the book that we mailed directly to your home. Liberty Military Housing has partnered with the Take the Challenge Now Foundation to turn screens off and turn life on. Everyone is encouraged to take part in the week-long challenge provided in the book to discover beneficial ways to enrich your lives and relationships you have with your family by turning screens off and turning life on. Couple housekeeping tips. We're going to keep you guys on mute so you can hear all the speakers. If you do have any questions, please use the chat. And we have Athena and Jamie from the community services team who will be monitoring the chat, keeping track of questions, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of this session. So we are honored to have with us this evening a panel of experts to discuss the importance of participating in this challenge and share stories and tips, examples about how incorporating activities like reading, physical activity, and spending time together as a family, instead of spending too much time on our screens, can be so beneficial for our health and wellness. Joining us today, we have our CEO, Philip Rizzo with Liberty Military Housing. We also have Christine Polson with the Take the Challenge Now Foundation. We have Laura Steiner with the United Through Reading Foundation. We have Cecilia Yakutu with the School Liaison Office. We also have Tammy Michnick with the Fleet and Family Support Center. And we have Stan Miller with the Armed Services YMCA. So to get us started, I'd like to reintroduce Kristen Polson, who has started the Take the Challenge Now Foundation. And I wanted to go over the importance of this annual 10-day Take the Challenge week and why her organization got all of this started in the first place. So Kristen.
Good evening. Take the Challenge is a program designed to help students and their families develop healthy media habits. Students are now spending over 7 hours a day using screens for entertainment, including TV, video games, social media. This is more time than students are in school. Screens are taking away from time spent with family, schoolwork, exercising, spending with their friends, and sleep. Our students and children and teens are seriously sleep deprived. But it's not just about the amount of screen time, it's also the content. TV, movies, and video games are all becoming more violent. The American Medical Association and the American Psychological Association have looked at decades of research and agree that media violence is an important factor in the aggression that we are seeing in our children and teenagers. Media violence also decreases positive helping behavior, empathy, and moral engagement. Youth aggression takes many forms: verbal aggression, bullying, assault, suicide, and homicide, as well as mass shootings. Until 1975, a juvenile had never committed a multiple homicide in a school. Now it is a worldwide phenomenon. There are also daily occurrences of youth engaging in non-fatal acts of violence and aggression. In 2019, there were 764,000 non-fatal violent victimizations at school. Media is also becoming more and more violent. The average child will have watched over 200,000 murders on TV by the time they are 17. Video games have become ultra violent. And children are watching or playing these games at a younger and younger age. And again, what we know is that it's impacting their behavior. But there is good news. When you help children reduce their screen time, you can reverse these effects. In 2003, I heard a presentation from Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman talk about media violence. Dave and I started working together on a number of projects, as well as articles in the book Assassination Generation. In 2004, I pulled together a team of teachers and consultants to begin working on a curriculum to educate students about the impact of too much screen time on their health and help them learn how to reduce and budget their screen time. After 18 years, we now have curriculum for students from preschool through high school. An important part of the program is the 10-day challenge, where students are encouraged to go screen-free for 10 days. Screens are addictive for children and adults. Taking a break from screens helps to reset their media consumption. They also learn about what they've been missing. At first, it's hard, but soon the students start enjoying the extra time they have. So what happens when you reduce screen time? Schools that implemented Take the Challenge saw a 55% decrease in student aggression on the playground, a 48% decrease in negative classroom behavior. Schools implementing programs during state tests scored higher in math and writing. At the middle school level, Take the Challenge reduced students' TV viewing and screen time. Take the Challenge increased the amount of time students spent playing outside. They slept more, they exercised significantly more, and according to teacher reports, students in the intervention group stayed on task and increased their homework completion. Take the Challenge was originally a school-based program until now. I'm thrilled that Liberty Military Housing was able to use some of the Take the Challenge curriculum to develop the first family Take the Challenge program and the first media education program for families that I am aware of. This program will benefit families and children around the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. So to provide an overview and some background on how and why Liberty Military Housing decided to partner with the Take the Challenge Now organization, I'd like to reintroduce Philip Rizzo, our CEO, to talk a little bit more about how we became involved.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Christine, and hello to Captain America and all the little eyeballs that we have joining us tonight. Great to see everybody. I want to thank you and your families for serving, because the whole family serves. Son of military, active duty myself, and so I know the sacrifices you all make. And so as a company, we actually got involved. I read the book that Christine co-wrote called Assassination Generation last year. And when I read the book, it talks about the things that Christine mentioned, which is the impact of media and video games on desensitizing our kids and our culture. As a father of 5, that hit close home for me. And I now have a grandson, so extra concern. But there was another message that came through that really tied in the recent, if you saw the documentary Social Dilemma, that was on social media, I think it's still on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, you've got 4 days to watch it before the Take the Challenge Now starts on Monday. But it's a great documentary that talks about how addictive screen time is and how all these apps are designed to get our eyeballs locked onto them. Even the little ellipsis that shows up when you're waiting for someone to respond to your text and then it disappears frustratingly, right? That's all designed to keep our eyeballs on the screen. And if you look, and if you have an Apple phone, I'm sure Android phones do it as well, you can see your screen time by app. Well, that's not for you. That's really for the app developers. It's basically their scorecard. And so we fall prey to that when we buy in. And so it was interesting. Around the same time I was reading this book, we were doing our asset walks and our property walks last year to plan how we were going to spend money in the upcoming years across San Diego and Camp Pendleton and the whole portfolio. And as you might know, we don't get any additional funding from the government. So all of our day-to-day operations, all the events that our teams do, all the renovations and the improvements, they all come from the same rent check. And so whether we spend money on roofs or rain gutters, or front doors or back patios, paint or playgrounds, it's all after reviewing the condition of the assets, the annual surveys that you all fill out. So thank you for doing that. And then we get input, obviously, from the Navy and the Marine Corps and the Army to let us know what they'd like to see. And then we check our bank account and we see how much of that we can get done. And so you've seen things that we've done over the years, from improving dog parks to doing renovations in different neighborhoods. One of the expenses that's a larger individual capital expense, are playgrounds. So our playgrounds cost between $50,000 and $75,000 for one of the playgrounds that you see in your communities. And they can cost, if you got to 29 Palms, El Centro, some of the areas where we have shades over the top of the playgrounds, those can add another $10,000 or $15,000 to the cost. So, and every 10 years, roughly, we have to replace those playgrounds. They just wear out. So with 30 years left, it's millions of dollars of deciding, is that a kitchen renovation at Strand, or is that a new playground? And so we drive by neighborhoods, and even in the summertime, sometimes they'd be empty. The question was, do we replace that neighborhood after 10 years, or do we just turn it into, a grass area? But I will tell you, reading this book, and I want to thank Christine, because it really changed my mind and my outlook on those playgrounds. We need to find ways to help motivate the kiddos to get out to them and not replace them, or remove them rather. We should ensure that we have them and other opportunities for our families to connect and to get outside. So Christine actually put together, she mentioned, a whole curriculum designed for schools, and we'll be trying to adopt that next year with the local schools, but this year we're going to focus on families. And so after reading her book, I got excited. I found the curriculum online, and I used Google, of course, to find Christine. Thankfully, she answered the phone, and worked with Cindy and our San Diego Community Services team to develop the book. Liberty's marketing communications team kind of helped edit and do the design. And it really was a team effort to get something out. We wanted to get this out to all 36,000 families across all of Liberty, but also all of our team members are participating. And so, believe me, it will be a challenge. I can tell you, my son, I have one left at home. My youngest is a senior in high school, and so he's not looking forward to losing the iPad or losing TV time for the next 10 days. But I think the one thing I'm most excited about is just the opportunity to flex our muscle a little bit, take back some of that time so we can re-engage with each other, with our neighbors and with our families. And so obviously we won't be able to maintain that forever. It's 2022, but it'll give us, I think, a new level set so we can start fresh and maybe adjust some of the habits that we have that maybe got exacerbated in the last 2 years of the pandemic, where we were binging everything we could find. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Cindy. Thank you.
Thank you. So our first big question for the panel is, let's just start with the basics. What is actually considered screen time, and what is an okay amount of time to be on the screen for fun? So Tammy with Fleet and Family Support Center, do you want to kick us off with this one?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tammy Michnick. I am the supervisor of the Navy New Parent Support Program. And screen time is anything that has a screen: a television, a VCR, a tablet, a computer, a phone. Anything that has a screen constitutes screen time. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, children under 2 should not be having any screen time whatsoever. It does not promote speech. It does not promote learning. It doesn't promote anything that children need at that age. They learn how to talk by being around people talking to them, reading to them, watching your face, watching every face, being around other kids is how they learn how to talk. Children from 2 to 5, they should not have more than 90 minutes of screen time total of all screens. And when they are watching something, it should be something fairly educational, like PBS or something like that. And they really should be monitored where they're on the screens, because they could put in a search word that can come up as something else, and you might have something on the screen that you don't want your child to see, or you don't want to have to explain to a 5-year-old. So it's really important that no matter what they're on, this whatever screen they're on, that you're there monitoring why they are on the screen.
Thank you. Laura, do you want to jump in and provide some perspective from the United Through Reading Foundation?
Absolutely. I myself have 4 young children and can't agree enough that screen time can be a very disconnecting activity in all of the ways that Tammy described. I will say that there are some few and finite ways that screens can be connecting and can be responsibly used. And one of those would be reading books or having books read to a child. A great way to do that is utilizing the United Through Reading app. So a plug for that, but to really, when screens are necessary, to look for connecting activities that help bring the child closer to the parents, but not to see it as a digital babysitter or things like that.
Great. And Cecilia, do you have some input from the school liaison perspective?
Sure. So our school liaison program really often gets asked, what is an appropriate screen time? As our culture has shifted school to a virtual setting due to the pandemic, that might change a little bit, right? So there's recreational screen time, and this is what I'm referring to when I'm talking about screen time usage. The recommendation for the schools is for the students not to use more than 2 hours a day, school age children from 5 to 17 years of age. And this would be social media apps. But as we're shifting through our new culture and navigating the new systems, we do have to understand that there's going to be some responsibility behind screen time and what your children are doing. There's going to be academic activities that they're going to be asked to do in a school setting. And this is not really what we're referring to. We're referring to that extra activities that they're really just trolling through apps, games, and social media.
Great.
Thank you.
No, thank you. So why is it so important to create opportunities to take a mental health break from screen time? Cecilia, you want to start off this one?
Sure. So a lot of the times the students don't have the opportunity to disconnect and disengage from that constant go of screen time. There is no break. There is no separation. Back in the day when I was in school, at least if I was having a rough day at school, I would come home and disengage and find myself in my safe spot. Being a teen these days or a student these days, it's fairly rough for them to be able to disconnect. Our school systems are going through a request for mental health providers. We are seeing it, we are feeling it, and we are hearing the parents' concerns when it comes to depression, anxiety. Having that mental break can give them that opportunity to engage in other avenues and not feel those social pressures to perform. So it just allows them that space to be themselves without feeling that pressure of perfection, because social media would only really show you the side that anybody wants to show you. It's not real life. They're going to show you a perception of the life that they want you to see. They're not going to show you how many times they edited that video in order to go viral. So it's important to take a break and disconnect, engage in real life activities, and it allows for academic success as well.
To jump on that topic, again, the research is clear that kids who spend more than 2 hours a day watching TV are at increased risk of high levels of psychological difficulties. Teens are more likely to experience depression. 1 out of 10 video gamers develop a pathological addiction with increased levels of depression, anxiety, and social phobia. Teens who reported 5 hours or more in video games, internet use, had a significantly higher risk of sadness, suicidal ideation, and suicide planning. But again, the good news is that if they take a break, you start seeing a reduction in those mental health problems. Pathological addiction, if you get the percent of time they're spending, you'll start seeing a reduction in those mental health difficulties. I love some of the kids during the screen free will tell us, I like my life better now. I feel more responsible. I come home, do my homework. We're closer as a family. So the students are seeing the benefits themselves. And it all begins with that screen-free challenge.
Cindy, I'd like to add on to that. It's not just your children, it's adults. pandemic was a nightmare for all of us, and we've spent so much time on screens. I'm a risk manager essentially at my office, and part of my job was to follow the news with the pandemic and how it impacted operations. And there's a 24-hour news cycle in this nation and around the world, frankly, that can drive you crazy if you let it, if you watch it all the time. We also serve children in after school settings and early childhood education settings. And I can attest to the damage that was done to children during lockdowns, where they were on Zoom calls, to see kindergartners on a Zoom call with a teacher remotely. It takes away their ability to interact with each other socially. And, that simple ability of saying to another child, will you be my friend? So there are all kinds of reasons that you should take a break from screen time. And I always like to tell people, go outside. Last weekend, we were able to host 20 Coast Guard families at our Horse of the Sun Ranch, about an hour east of San Diego. And at lunch, a dad came up to me, because we don't have cell service there. He said, look at all these kids out here. 4 hours ago, they didn't know each other, and they were playing and having a great time and enjoying nature. So there are all kinds of reasons you want to take this break. And I encourage you all to take the challenge.
Wonderful, thank you. So continuing this conversation, specifically with health, what are some behaviors and or side effects that you have seen with individuals, both kids and adults, when there's too much screen time? Tammy, you want to start us off?
Sure. So what we're seeing with our under 5 crowd is a lot more significant speech delays, because kids learn how to speak by being spoken to, by being read to, by watching people's mouths. Interaction is the way that they learn to speak, not from screens. We're also seeing other delays like gross motor, because kids aren't outside, they're not climbing and jumping and sliding and doing all the things that their arms and legs need to do to learn those gross motor skills. Same with fine motor skills, which is your fingers and your toes, doing cutting, scissoring, coloring, that kind of thing. That's good for their motor skills. And if they're sitting in front of a computer, other than their thumbs, which they're very good at using, they're not using their whole hand as well. But what I'm finding the most concerning is the executive functioning and the cause and effect thinking. When kids are learning and they're building, they get very frustrated and they get mad and they do it again and they do it again and they do it again until they learn it. That's cause and effect thinking. They learn it by trying it over and over and over again. And that is really important, because that's how kids learn what is right and what is wrong. That's that cause and effect thinking part of their brain. And we see kids who don't have that, and they will not respond to anything unless it beeps, which is, they get an automatic reinforcer. But really what the brain needs is a lot of work, a lot of hands-on, using their hands, using their bodies to learn. And they also need to be around other children. They have even babies have socialization needs. They need to be around other kids. So we're seeing that there's a lot of delays. We're making referrals all the time that we were not making before COVID, because kids are not getting enough interaction right now.
TV viewing and screen time also results in increased type 2 diabetes and obesity in children. For adults, there's an increase in cardiovascular disease and all-cause mortality. Heavy media viewers, it shortens their life expectancy by 5 years, which is crazy. But the health problems begin at a very young age. Researchers found that every additional hour of TV and screen time among toddlers corresponded to more sedentary or less active lifestyle, higher consumption of junk food, and higher rates of obesity and being overweight, and increased victimization by classmates. We've known for quite a while that increased media can cause more aggressive behavior, even among toddlers. In fact, the highest rate of expulsion is actually at the preschool level, and it's for biting is the #1 problem. But increased media violence, and you see increased aggression, but you also see increased victimization by classmates. And they think it's because these little ones are not developing the social skills by interacting with adults as well as other children.
Thank you. So this next question is for Stan at the Armed Services YMCA. One of the challenges in our book is about eating together as a family. Can you provide some more information on why this is so important and some short-term and long-term benefits for families who do eat together as a family?
Sure. For those of you who are not eating dinner right now, I hope I make you hungry. I want you to imagine your grandma's house. You can smell bacon frying in a pan, maybe some raw onions in there with it, and just let that savory smell waft through the air. Maybe there's a loaf of bread in the oven or some brownies or chocolate chip cookies. Food cuts across all cultures. Food is a way of connecting families, extended families, cousins, friends at work. You've probably been to potlucks in your neighborhoods. Food is a universal language. And in the short term, what it can do for your family is it's a way to connect. Number two, if it's a meal that you prepare for yourself, you know what's in it. So you know what's healthy and what's good for your family. Christine and others just talked about developing those skill sets with kids. Sitting around a table with your family is a way to develop those socialization skills for young children. If they help prepare the meals, it's also a way to develop some of those fine motor skills. If you have them chopping up carrots, there's some safe knives. I used to operate preschools, so I know there are ways to do this. You could do a test kitchen night with your family. Make several different versions of a grilled cheese or maybe a mac and cheese. Kid-friendly meals that they would enjoy being a part of. Short-term benefits, it connects your family. You get to know about their day. They get to hear about yours. Long-term, if you teach a child to cook, that's something that they'll take with them. It's a skill set they'll grow up with and teach their children. More than that, though, those memories, I can smell bacon as I'm on my morning walk and mixed with the ocean air, and it takes me back to when I was a kid. So I would encourage everyone to, during this challenge week, have as many family meals as you can together.
That's awesome. Thank you. So from the schools, we are hearing a lot about an increase in these TikTok challenges, and kids are getting in trouble at school. What are some tips for parents when it comes to social media in general? And what can parents do to help educate their kids on managing their social media access? So Cecilia, you want to start us off with this one?
Sure. So TikTok challenges are very common right now. In any type of media, challenges are going to be common, whether it's TikTok or another platform. Once family members get used to a certain platform, kids jump to a new one. So understanding that having these conversations with your children is really important. You have to stay in the know with the community and really understand what's going on. We have had concerns come through the command, through the schools, and through parents with these TikTok challenges, and really sitting down your children and talking to them about the real consequences that come with these challenges. Some of these challenges could be fun, but some of these challenges could be not so fun, right? And they might include vandalism. There has been some suicide challenges that we've had to bring to the forefront to our programs and ensure that our family members are aware, so they're monitoring the kids' screen time and what they're doing. Really, if your child is using the internet or any sort of social media platform, that is the time to have an age-appropriate conversation with them about internet safety. A lot of our programs do contracts with children as young as 5 that has social media, internet safety use, where the children have to sign in order to participate and use any of our platforms within our programs. It's not a bad idea to sit down with your families and have a similar contract with your child and show them boundaries and limitations of what they're able to use. We also do have a lot of resources for our school liaison department. We have them in every branch of service. So regardless if you're in JBLM, in San Diego, wherever you are, there is a school liaison officer near your installation. There's also child and youth programs that can provide different resources to families, parenting tips, teen tips that we provide in recreational programs. And like Stan was mentioning, our programs focus on family style dining. That engagement that you have with these families and with your children during dinner is going to be key to really understand what's going on. And don't just blow off the concerns thinking that your child might not be the one participating, because a lot of times the concerns that we get from the school administrators is from the parent not believing that their child would participate, and actually they got caught doing some of the vandalism or some of the challenges. So not playing a blind eye, really monitoring their screen time, monitoring what they're doing, connecting your emails, your notifications, so that you really have access with parental controls of what your children are doing. A lot of times you'd be surprised how many kids have parents monitoring one social media account, but they have these ghost accounts. You know, kids are kids, so they're gonna mess up in one of your laptops or one of your phones. They're gonna add another account that you're not familiar with, but you know, it's your phone, you're paying for it, or your laptop and you're monitoring it. Make sure that you're checking, make sure that wherever your child is, there's boundaries and limitations to what they're doing. There's parental controls. There's notifications that you can put onto your phone. So, and understanding the emotional challenges and changes in your children. So being aware of what they're currently doing. If you notice any changes or distress, reach out to Military OneSource, reach out to one of the clinical therapists that we have at the school site to ask for that support. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. I think, TikTok's a big one, right? I think I'm not speaking as an expert as the rest of the panel, but just as a dad of 5, 4 girls who all have TikTok accounts. And so I can tell you, my youngest daughter, who'll be 20, she's in college. She actually was really proud of herself because she set her New Year's resolution. She says, "Dad, I'm going to limit my TikTok time to 2 hours a day." I said, "Oh my goodness, don't you have some studying to do?" And so, no, Dad, that's a lot less than my friends. And so I was pretty amazed at how much time she was spending. So that became a goal to grab the phone and look at those screen times. Like I said earlier, I think, I was reading just about TikTok that last year, 68 billion hours of screen time people spent on TikTok. That's an insane amount of time. The average American spends almost an hour a day. And that's the average American. 40% of all social media users use TikTok in some form or another. I'm not one of them. And so my wife is in charge of monitoring the TikTok accounts. But it's funny because, that it's become so pervasive. But it's addictive, right? It started with 15-second videos, then a minute, then 2 minutes. Now you can make 10-minute TikTok videos. And that's how addiction works. It starts with a little until you're hooked. And now people are watching, 2 hours of 10-minute TikTok videos. And so I do think we have an opportunity with the Take the Challenge to, like I said earlier, just reset and find out what is an appropriate amount of time. And look, we tried really hard to keep our kids off. We didn't get our daughter a phone until one day we couldn't get a hold of. My oldest is 27. That's actually my grandson. In my head, my kids are this age, right? In my head, my kids are all like that big still, but they're all in their 20s. And so it goes by like this, but we tried to hold off getting a phone, but you can't. I mean, running around between soccer practices and everything else. And so my youngest daughter, we said, no Snapchat. It's only going to be, this was a couple of years ago. I'm dating myself a bit, but we were on a trip and all her friends on the soccer trip, we're all communicating. And she comes to my room crying at the hotel and she says, "Dad, everybody went to get ice cream and I didn't know because they did it on Snapchat. Boo-hoo." So of course, then we had to let her get Snapchat. And so it just becomes like, it just grows. And so I think monitoring the social media is important, but also taking this opportunity to reset. And it's monkey see, monkey do, right, parents? So part of it is having the discipline ourselves to make sure we're not scrolling mindlessly through. I guess for some of us, it would still be Facebook. For those of you a little bit younger than me, maybe it's Instagram. Younger crowd still, maybe TikTok. The rest of you are on some other app I haven't heard of yet. So, but I think it's important that we do stay connected to what our kids are doing, but also that we're monitoring ourselves. And so this is just, I'm really excited because it's a good reset, I think, for all of us to kind of start fresh. So appreciate that, Cecilia.
I had one additional tip to add to that. This is not just specific to TikTok, but if you can turn off notifications, and if you have older children, teaching them to turn off the notifications, it's going to be much easier to try and wean yourself off of, the number of hours of screen time that you have every day. I don't know about you guys, but my phone buzzes at me constantly during the day. Most of that's work. But a lot of it is social media. I find when I completely silence all of that, there may be a day or two that goes by that I don't look at social media accounts. So just a tip.
Great. Thank you for all that. So since the pandemic, and a lot of our locations will experience some bad weather. So we find families, we spend a lot of time inside. And so that tends to increase our screen time due to being stuck at home. So what are some suggestions for activities do you all have for our families? And before I kick it to the panel, to our families out there, if you guys have some great activities you do at home that is not screen related, drop those suggestions in the chat while our panel is going through their suggestions, and maybe we can come up with a really good list to share with everybody. So to kick off this conversation, I'm going to send it back to Stan with the Armed Services Y.
All right. Thanks, Cindy. Well, you guys know I love food, so I'm going to go back to the kitchen. In Southern California, it's going to get hot this year. In the desert communities, it's going to get hot. When it gets hot and you're driven back inside, go to the kitchen. Reach in the freezer, grab a bag of frozen fruit mostly, blueberries, bananas, raspberries, whatever your kid's favorite fruit is. Put a little bit of that in the blender with some almond milk and some honey, and blend that together, and you've got some really healthy nice cream. I call it nice cream because it doesn't have all the added sugar to it, and I promise your kids are going to love it. So that's my tip.
Great. And Laura, do you have a suggestion from the United Through Reading Foundation?
Absolutely. Well, some of my favorite tips, of course, circle back to reading and books. So many books have fantastic extension activities that can be done individually or with the family. For example, the Zoe and Sassafras books are all about science experiments. So your family or your kids could use the scientific method that's explained in the books to make their own science projects. One thing my family did a lot of during our lockdown times was a day in the life of a book. So each kid would choose a book and design a whole day in the life of that book. And so there were days that we went to Hogwarts. There was a day we went to Paris with Madeline and did all sorts of fun things and did meals like that and activities. And the kids got to really kind of live the life that they'd always dreamed of.
Thank you. And Christine, do you have a suggestion for everybody?
Sure. And I love the ideas. I'm reading them, great ideas. And so my first one is brainstorm ideas. Have a sheet of paper and label one inside activities, another outside activities, another helping activities. And then list as many ideas. When friends come over, have them read the list, see if they can come up with something. Get lots of ideas. And then when you can't think of something to do, cut the ideas up and put them in a jar and just pull out one and go ahead and try it out. So brainstorming is wonderful. Then create your non-technology apps. So you put together a box of different supplies. It might be an arts and crafts. Then you've got another box of old clothes or costumes for dramatic play. And then another one of supplies for small construction projects, paper plates, balsa wood, Legos. And so when you don't know what to do, you grab your non-technology app box and put it out on the table and go ahead and have some fun. Another idea is to change up indoor games to include active components. If you land on a red square, you do 5 jumping jacks, and have the kids come up with ways of making board games more active. Change outdoor activities so they can be played inside. Indoor volleyball is really fun with a balloon. Build indoor forts with sheets and cardboard boxes. And finally, learn a new skill or hobby.
Wonderful, thank you. So one of our newest partnerships is also happening right now, which is Liberty's Military Housing's partnership with the United Through Reading organization. And we've recently launched little libraries in all of our communities across the country. So I'm going to have Laura with United Through Reading start this question. And the question is, why is reading so important to incorporate into your daily and weekly routines?
Thank you. So reading is important for all the reasons already mentioned: language development, social emotional development, literacy, etc. But it's also a truly connecting activity that helps us and our children develop and expand our growth mindset. It's a way to explore the world and a great way for children to learn how to understand and express new feelings or situations and understand what's happening around them, and grow their imagination and problem-solving skills in the process. Reading can take them outside on a rainy day. It can take them to fun and exciting places like Australia or the moon, and to fantasy worlds like Hogwarts or the Kree Empire. Reading is a gateway to the world and to the universe, and reading connects us to each other. It's a great way to help children of all ages calm down after a rough day or a tantrum, or a grown-up tantrum, or to spend time with someone they love. It's a truly connecting and growing activity to bring them together with each other, with you, and the world.
Thank you for that, Laura, and thank you guys for the partnership with United Through Reading. We actually built a little library outside our house about 9 years ago because my daughter wanted one. She saw when we were on campus doing a tour with my older daughter at LMU. They had these little libraries everywhere. So why don't we do one of those, Dad? So we built one and we stocked it, and it's been great. And it's so funny because the neighborhood's turned over now and it's young families again. And so it's always fun to see families stopping in front of the house and picking out books. And so we're really excited. If you don't know about United Through Reading, I'll take a second to plug them. I know that's not the question, but first of all, they seeded all our little libraries. They put some books in each of them. There's a sticker in the book that has a connection to the app. They started 30 plus years ago with VHS tapes, and they would help sailors heading off on ships to record themselves reading out loud to their kids. And that evolved into DVDs, that evolved into thumb drives, and now they have an app. And the app is free to servicemen and women. And if you don't have it, you should get it, because it's that is some good screen time right there. Because I talked to Sandy Zoll, the CEO, and she was sharing that when her son was deployed for 14 months, and having experienced this, my own daughter, who didn't come to me after a deployment, was crushing. Her son did it for 14 months. Did the daily reading, right? His son was able to pull up the app and watch it every day, and greeted him at the airport with a hug and a smile. And that's a great connection piece that we like the partnership with United Through Reading, because it really kind of brings us all together. And so, but I think just reading in general, obviously, the benefits of that are clear. I tend to be an audio reader because I'm a really slow reader. And so I find that though, when I do read, it's such a different experience when I actually take the time to open a book. So I try to get in 10 to 15 minutes a day. It slows me down, again, because I'm a slow reader, but it also allows me to just really take in the words. You process things differently, right? When you read the written word, it's so different than actually even when I listen to it. So usually the second or third time through, I won't buy a book until I've heard it a couple of times, and then I'll usually buy a book and then I read it along with the audio, and it's such a different experience. And so I really encourage not just the young readers, but also, again, monkey see, monkey do, right? If mom and dad are relaxing, scrolling through social media, then that'll be kind of what our kids do if we're relaxing with the book. My wife is an avid reader. all my kids are readers, thank God. But so it didn't follow that part. I do have one who likes to listen to books, but she's my youngest, and I think I probably kept her a little too close. That last child, you got to keep them close. So yeah,
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Laura, can you mention the app again for everybody in case they haven't downloaded it yet?
Yes, so I just put a link to the app in
Great.
the comments, or you know what? I might have put it in a direct comment. I will send it again out to everyone, but you can go to the app, download the app, and then with that, the service member make a recording and have it sent to anyone who is a caregiver of a child in their life. If they don't have a book, they can pre-order the book for that purpose. They could use a book from one of the little libraries in the LMH communities, or from a library themselves. And then when the caregiver of the child receives the email with a link to the video, it will also have a link for them to get their own copy of the book. And it's a great way to, as Philip mentioned, to keep your service members connected with your children. I know for mine, it has been invaluable through the years to help make sure that they know daddy and they are feeling connected to daddy no matter how far away and for how long.
Wonderful. Thank you. And before we move on to our final question for the panel, for all the families out there, if you want to share in the chat what book your family's enjoying reading right now, we might get some great ideas and start seeing those books in the little libraries. And with the challenge coming up, there's a reading challenge in there. So maybe some of you can share ideas about what books to look for to read during our Take the Challenge. Okay, so our final question is about the book, and I'm going to go around to each of the panelists and ask them to share what their favorite challenge is and provide any tip or trick or tool for families to utilize as they get ready to start this challenge next Monday. So our first panelist, I think he has 2 challenges that he likes. So Stan from the Armed Services Y, you want to go first?
Sure. I like challenge number 7, shopping for healthy food, of course, and on a budget. The book actually has some really good tips. First of all, when you shop in a grocery store, keep to the perimeter of the grocery store. That's where most of the healthy foods located, the veggies, the dairy, meats, all your good stuff's going to be on the outer perimeter. If you do venture into the center aisles, stick with the frozen food sections. You can get frozen fruits and vegetables that are picked at their peak of quality and ripeness, and you can also get them generally at a lower cost. For the budget side, shop at the NEX or your commissaries. You use those benefits, and if you can, buy in bulk and then food prep on the weekends. The other challenge that I gravitated towards is how to get better sleep. I personally use an alarm clock. I use my cell phone as an alarm clock. But you can also use your cell phone as an alarm notifying you when to shut your phone off and go to bed. Doing that ideally an hour before you go to sleep will allow your body to calm down and you'll sleep better. And if you have children or older children especially, they need that sleep. So use that as a tip to teach your kids how to remind themselves to go to bed. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. So Tammy with Fleet and Family, do you want to share what your favorite challenge is?
Sure. I like getting kids outside as much as possible. For one, they have a large need for exercise and to move around. You're going to see they're going to have vitamin D. They're going to have more interaction with other kids. They're going to be, strengthening their gross motor skills and their fine motor skills and all the skills that they need. Because kids need to be touching grass and sand and going down slides. So go out there and use your playgrounds and these housing facilities as much as possible. Kids need to be outside as much as possible and getting dirty and learning their natural environment. Go on a nature walk. If it's really hot out, go early in the morning, go in the evening. The whole family goes. You can identify birds or plants or whatever it is, whatever animal, if you want to do practice counting, you can count cars that are a certain color. There are all kinds of games that you can do outside with kids that are learning, but they're also outside and using their natural environment.
Great, thank you. And Cecilia, with our school liaison group, what's your favorite challenge?
So my favorite challenge is being social outside of social media. I think there's a healthy way to remain social outside and engage that opportunity to connect with people without doing it on social media. So my family's favorite activity to do, and I think it might have to do with my job, having to do a lot of community service. So I always made my kids do community service with me. But I do have a son who's stationed at JBLM right now. So spring break, we went to JBLM, and then my daughter's favorite book is Twilight. So we did a road trip, went to Forks, Washington, and she did all the stops. I mean, engaging them in these outside activities so they can, she found Bella's car and she saw the house, and just engaging them in activities outside. One trick that I have up my sleeve is I always allow her to bring a friend, but they do have to stay engaged and connected and not on social media when we're doing these events.
Great, thank you. And Christine, I think you have two favorite challenges.
Yes, the turn off screens, turn on life. And this is a fun activity where the purpose is to come up with your family activity that the whole family does together. And one of the things families tell us they like about the challenge is they spend more time together. So with this one, the goal is that you actually do an activity together, create something. And I would encourage you to think about an activity with your family stories. Every family has those stories, a fun vacation, or the time the dog ate all of the Halloween candy. So come up with those stories and then think of a way to do something with them. Maybe you're going to write a song, take a popular song, but change the lyrics to be about your family story. So again, think about family stories. My second challenge is actually the very first one. What is considered media? And this is important in getting the challenge going. It's where you go around and first figure out what media you have and who watches what and how much time. And it's a way of kind of starting out, figuring out where you are so that you can see progress. And then you also, again, emphasize the entertainment or recreational media. It's not about schoolwork, computers, or work phones. It's about recreational media that we want to try to decrease. But I also like it gives you some flexibility. And although our goal as much as possible is to go screen free, there may be times, especially if you have teenagers, that you're not going to be able to get that 100%. So it does provide that flexibility to select the technology that you are able to commit to decreasing. And for teenagers, we know with children that they are pretty good at listening to their parents most of the time. But when you have a teenager, all of a sudden, they don't listen quite so good. And in fact, sometimes they do the opposite. It's called the boomerang effect. But if they have some say, if they have some control, and they can say, okay, I'm not going to be able to get rid of video games for the whole 10 days. Maybe they come up with reduce the amount of time, or they're going to go without video games for 3 out of the 10, something like that. So it does provide some flexibility that I think is important for the teenagers.
Great, thank you. And Laura, what is your favorite challenge?
Yes, so I feel like mine should be reading, but I've said enough on that. So my favorite challenge is dinner as a family. I find that having that set moment in the day that we all come together and spend time together. Sometimes there are tantrums, sometimes there are other things going on, but having that consistency in our day is very important. And especially at times when things can be a little bit unsettling, or when our service member is not home or other things are going on, having that point in time that the kids can count on, that we'll all be together, that we're going to have a meal, whatever it looks like. Sometimes it's healthy, sometimes it's pizza, but we're all doing it together. And I'll say, as the kids get older, it doesn't have to be dinner. It could be breakfast. It could be lunch. It's really just about having that consistent time that we are uniting as a family and having conversation and learning about each other and how we can be supportive and collaborative and have some fun.
Great, thank you. And just real quick, I want to share what my favorite challenge is, and that is number 6, which is being social outside of social media. And I am going to plug the community services events that are offered at all of your housing areas. We have some great events coming up, especially this summer. There is no substitution for face-to-face interaction. So these events provide a great opportunity for you all to come out and meet your neighbors, meet new friends, have some great experiences, some new experiences, create some family memories. So keep participating, keep engaging, keep connecting with each other. And we're excited to see you out at these events coming up. And finally, I want to turn over to Philip. Philip, what is your favorite challenge? I think you might have 2 as well.
Like my kids, I have multiple favorites. I will say, Laura, that pizza, you kind of alluded that it wasn't healthy. As an Italian, I take a little bit of offense. Somebody who eats pizza twice a week. Pizza rolls, maybe not so healthy, unless you put them in a blender with some frozen fruit. Stan, maybe that I could do that with my pizza rolls. No, I think the 2 that I have would probably be getting to bed, right? I think when you're not watching screen time and you cut out American Idol and scrolling through social media for an hour or so, you find out you run out of things to talk about and games to play. Usually at some point, somebody in my house will storm off to bed early when they're losing at Scrabble. Not that I beat my wife at Scrabble. She usually beats me. But I think getting to bed early is one of the huge benefits of the screen-free challenge. And the other one is celebration. So I know I'm standing between you and drawing for celebrating at this, so I'll be quick. But I think you got to take time. Look at your screen time on Sunday night. Like I said, look at it again when you're done. And celebrate the wins. We're so used to in our culture of Property Brothers starts out, they're looking at a home, and at the end, oh, it's a great home. And what's the show on from Waco? Those folks, everything's done in an hour. And Weight Loss, Biggest Loser, it's done in a series, right? You didn't get to this point of social media or screen time addiction overnight. You're probably not going to crack it in 10 days. So whatever the increase in, whatever the improvement is, celebrate it. Take time to recognize everybody's feelings and how they feel at the end of it, and then use that as leverage to change going forward. So thanks again for participating, and I wish you the best of luck. Like I said, it is a challenge, and I'll turn it back to you, Cindy, to draw.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for the great comments. We're so happy you enjoyed these kind of events. We're excited and thrilled to be able to offer these for you. So thank you for participating tonight. And again, we're excited to see you all summer long at these events that are coming up, hosted at all of your housing locations. So real quick, before I turn it over to Jamie for the drawing, just a quick reminder, the Take the Challenge starts on Monday, the 25th, and will go until May 4th. On May 4th, after that date, we will be posting questions. The questions are actually in your book as well, so you can kind of track as you go. But the questions will be hosted on Community Rewards. So make sure you have that app downloaded. You can go onto that app, answer the questions, earn additional points, and then those points can be turned in for additional gift cards. So just, money, money, money. So have fun as you take this challenge. Thank you again for participating. And I'm going to turn it over to Jamie. And just so all you know, Jamie and Athena were authors along with Kristen on this book. And so they did a great job pulling this together. And Jamie, let's announce some winners.
All right, my favorite part of the day. So while we were doing this session, I pulled winners for our door prize. I will add it to the chat for our 20 families who won a $50 e-gift card. Please be on the lookout for a prize log coming from DocuSign. We will need your signature before we can email you the gift card. I will also put in the chat. It will be the emails that are that you registered with. So I guess you guys just know who won now. So I'll go ahead and put those in the chat.
All right, drum roll, drum
Drum
roll,
roll,
drum roll.
There we
Thank
are.
you. Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you to everybody participating. Bye to all the kids. I saw a bunch of you waving.